My 10-year-old journey from college to starting up taught me how to think like an entrepreneur and embrace the startup life. A life that I'm firmly planted in and thankful for every day. My story may be different from yours, but you'll probably recognize some elements and be able to learn from my mistakes and observations. After growing up in the cornfields of northern Illinois, dreaming of a baseball career, I realized in college that it wasn't meant to be. So I decided to jump into computer technology. My computer technology degree from Purdue University landed me a summer internship my junior year with a consulting company in what was then the Sears Tower in downtown Chicago. I was getting paid $20 an hour for the summer, which at the time was a lot for a college student who looked more like a 15-year-old. The internship turned into a full-time opportunity, and I took it. It wasn't the Chicago Cubs, but the internet boom was still young and I was close to home and my favorite sports teams. I learned a number of things working at a fast-paced, scrappy technology consulting business. The first was that you don't actually have to have a product to sell it. We sold work that was not yet created off the idea that we could create it in just a short time. This was a new concept to me, and one that has helped me sell Tech Cocktail's vision, not based on where we've been, but where we're going. It wasn't until the spring after September 11, 2001, that I learned the hardest lesson. The company wasn't doing as well as it previously had, and there was a cash flow shortage, so they had to lay off nearly the entire team, including me and many of the colleagues I had helped hire. It was a sad day. I remember walking home in the cold Chicago rain. Getting laid off from my first job out of college taught me a very important lesson. There's no security in working for someone else. I was raised believing that if you go out, work really hard, you get a good job, build a career, everything will fall into place. What they don't tell you is that some of the companies you work for may also need to make changes to survive, at your expense. You might not get a shot at building the career you imagined, no matter how hard you work. But I still wasn't a rebel yet, so I went to work for a larger corporation, the Tribune Company, with the sense that it would be more secure. It had been around almost 100 years, and I had grown up visiting the iconic Tribune Tower across from the Wrigley Building on Michigan Avenue. It was a Chicago media icon. So when I landed a job with the Tribune, I was sure I'd found the place I was going to build a career. Not to mention, they owned the Chicago Cubs. This meant I could see more Cubs games than ever before. I loved working at the Tribune and walking to the tower every day. It was a dream come true for me. But even though Tribune Company adapted early to getting newspapers online, I started to realize that they were not aggressive enough. Startups like Yahoo and AOL were land grabbing for niche industry news eyeballs online, and companies such as Craigslist and Google devastated the online classified and display advertising space. While at Tribune, I started my own personal blog called Somewhat Frank to review startups and better understand blogging. And I started to see things that needed improvement in the fast-paced blogosphere. And I was a developer. So I was in an interesting position. I realized I could literally develop a product to solve a problem, launch it via my blog, and acquire new users instantly. So I did just that. At the time, spam blogs, or splogs, were a problem. I noticed that popular entrepreneur, investor, and blogger Mark Cuban, also the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, had been posting in the blogosphere about it. He was hot on the topic of splogs because he had invested in a blog search engine called IceRocket, which was getting infiltrated by spam blogs. Sploggers were turning out thousands of landing pages filled with ads of popular search terms, polluting the web. When I realized this, I sprang into action. A friend of mine and I spent our nights after work creating a simple product called Splog Reporter, with the mission of helping clean up the blogosphere one splog at a time. The term splog hadn't existed more than a few days earlier, and we had already built a product to tackle it. It took off. Within days, I started getting interviews, and Splog Reporter was covered by the Wall Street Journal, Wired, and a number of other publications. Even the Toronto Star picked up the story. Splog Reporter lasted only a few months before we had to pull the plug. I realized that in order to really help IceRocket and other blog search engines clean up their indexes while creating a sustainable business, I would have to build a comprehensive search engine, which was out of scope of my first venture. It was a good decision, as Google then added their own blog search engine, crushing the competition, as it would have done to Splog Reporter.